What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. And AJ, we're here in Bank of America Stadium following North Carolina's 31-17 win over South Carolina. Now, you can probably hear that leaf blower right up there blaring in the background, which has been a common theme with our videos because we end up doing them so late after the game that usually everybody's over here cleaning up.
We're picking up where we left off.
Exactly. We're trying a new mic setup right now with my iPhone. Hopefully it sounds a little bit better and you can block some of that out because we are trying to block that out for you guys.
It's sort of like a man on the street.
Yeah, it's kind of what it feels like right now.
Sync the camera with the phone.
I feel like I'm interviewing you with this. So That's what we're doing tonight. We'll see if it works, and then we'll kind of go into next week. First week jitters, trying to get everything out of the way, work out some kinks.
Yeah, just work out kinks.
We'll figure it out going into we'll figure it out going into the second week. And AJ, no really first game jitters for the Tar Heels either. Is just incredibly impressive performance, particularly from the defense against a good South Carolina team. And I want to talk both lines of scrimmage, but let's start with the defensive line because it's been a talking point amongst fans for a very long time, it feels like, for a couple years now, in terms of this defense and this defensive line has to improve and get pressure on a quarterback. And AJ, we finally saw it tonight, and we saw it, especially in that fourth quarter, in big moments. And I think that speaks to the improvement that we saw. Now, I tweeted after the game, it is one game. There's a lot of positives to take away, but the defense looked a lot better, but it all started up front for the Tar Heels tonight, and then just major credit to the defensive line for what they were able to do.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that, but the things that didn't go well at times for the defense tonight were all very fixable.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It had nothing to do with getting beat. I mean, a couple times there was some good coverage and they made catches. A couple times they just had some assignment issues. They'll fix that stuff. They'll adjust and fix that stuff. But when it comes down to a mano-a-mano, I mean, they totally own the line of scrimmage. Those of you who follow us through spring practice in the summer and throughout fall camp, and not everybody does, but we talked a lot about the words violence, about the words being quick off the snap, pre-snap smarts, short area discipline, and finishing plays, and we saw that tonight.
Absolutely.
So in the public stuff being said by the program is they were headed in this direction here, and I reported that. The stuff I'd heard from sources off the record was the same thing. So I even asked Mac after the game, so you've talked about this in the spring, you've talked about it the last month. Is what you saw tonight, what you've seen sort of gaining steam? And he said, I didn't want to say it because you're just never sure, but I thought so. And I'll tell you this much, there's some people off the record said this past week, we really believe the defense is in the neighborhood of what we saw tonight. I was told that Kamen Rucker cannot be blocked. They can't block him in practice. South Carolina couldn't block him tonight. But it wasn't just Kamen Rucker. It was everybody. It was Bo Atkinson. We talked about Bo. You got to pay attention in early August, guys, because the stuff you see in game time, we talked about it all month long. Bo Atkinson was really good. Tamari Fox gave him excellent snaps. First time he's played in a while. They've got a good game from Miles Murphy, Kevin Hester. Travis Shaw's out there a little bit. Kamen Rucker was a stud. He was playing defensive end a lot, rush end a lot, had a hand on the ground with Amari Gaynor on the field. Gaynor had 2 sacks. I think he played 20 snaps, had 2 sacks. So I like the way that they brought pressure at times, but they didn't need to. They had pretty good coverage at the corners. The linebackers were in tune most of the time with what was going on. Huzzy made a few early mistakes in coverage, but didn't after that. And they were picking on Tayon Holloway a little bit, but it didn't matter because Spencer Rattler was running for his life. You and I said in the pod the other day, make him run and try to beat you, and they're going to win the game. And that's what they did. 9 sacks. Last year they had 17. And we're going to talk offensive line in a second, but the offensive line didn't give up a sack. They gave up 40 last year. So their sack margin was minus 23 a year ago, which is disgraceful. All right? They were, 127 or something in sacks and 129 in TFLs. They had 17 TFLs tonight. They were 9 sacks, none allowed tonight. They had 17 TFLs. They were 129th in the nation out of 130 last year in TFLs. And they had 17 tonight. This was a dominant performance by a defense that Gene Chizik said was faster, said was more violent. He said in the second year, we're going to be so much better in pre-snap, and they scaled some stuff back. And it was also the Ted Monachino effect. We talked about that the other day. I said, I want to see what the Ted Monachino effect is. If you don't know who he is, Google him. Find out the guys he's coached in the NFL. Some big-time rush ends, some studs that have played in Pro Bowls. He's an analyst this year in the Carolina program, brought in to help Tim Cross. And he has. And we saw that tonight because they were getting the quarterback from the edge constantly. They look faster than I've seen a North Carolina defense look in years. They were more violent. They were smarter. They were disciplined. This was a great performance. This is a phenomenal performance tonight.
It was. I thought defensively Carolina just looked fantastic. What was it? -2 rushing yards for South Carolina, 351 total yards for the Gamecocks. And we haven't been able to talk about things like that in what it feels like a long time. It always felt like it was always kind of going into a shootout. But I mentioned in the fourth quarter how it felt like, off camera at least, it felt like the offense was kind of slacking a little bit. 2 interceptions from Drake May, not great performance. They weren't moving the ball. They weren't running the clock down.
Kobe should have had that.
Yeah, exactly. But the defense stepped up and made plays. So we have to give major credit to the defense. Again, I will say as a caveat, it is one game. It has to be carried into the rest of the season.
Let me make one more point real fast.
I thought it was fantastic.
During the period of the game when Carolina pulled away, there were 4 possessions. See, what happened is Carolina scored first, South Carolina responded. And then the next time Carolina scored, South Carolina responded. So when Carolina scored the third time, the field goal, they got to stop late in the first half. So that was a period in the game where 4 straight possessions, South Carolina totaled 29 yards of offense while the Tar Heels were scoring. And that's what gave them the separation in the game. So they were doing it on both ends. How often have we looked at this team in the past and said, boy, the offense is great, but the defense can't stop anybody, or the defense finally plays well like Georgia Tech and the offense can't score. Tonight you saw them do both. They complement each other really, really well, but you can't have that unless you're great at the line of scrimmage defensively. And Shane Beamer said at one point in his presser, they were rushing 3. They were rushing 3. Like we couldn't stop them. That was impressive.
It was very, very impressive. Let's flip over to the other line of scrimmage, and that would be the offensive line. Again, I thought they looked really good tonight, too. You said it earlier, no sacks allowed tonight. We haven't seen that in a long time. It was an offensive line that struggled a lot last year, particularly protecting Drake May, and just wasn't the case tonight. And I talked to a lot of Carolina fans before the game about, and it was very cliche and very easy for me to say it, but, I told people this game to me just comes down to the line of scrimmage. The defensive line plays well like we've heard in the offseason.
We talked about in our video.
Yeah, exactly. And if the offensive line steps up and they give Drake May time and all the weapons that he has around him, this Carolina can put up points, and they will put up points, and they did so tonight. So we have to, again, give credit to the offensive line as well, because we saw, I know it's game 1, but we saw improvements on both lines of scrimmage, and that is a big positive heading into the rest of the season.
No sacks, 1 TFL. And the inside run. One of the areas of concern throughout fall, really the consistent area of concern, was the offensive line. When I talked to Chip Lindsey a couple weeks ago, he said, boy, they've been really inconsistent. So I asked Mac a few days later, next time we got him, about what Chip said, and he said, well, we've been really good, the 2 guard spots in center, not so at tackle. The inside runs tonight. They were running counters, and they were running inside run stuff, zone runs, inside the tackles, running over the 2 guards. Monolith got hurt, and Adorno had to play the whole game. Lampkin played the whole game out there. And that in British Brooks. I even asked British after the game about the line. And then when I finished the question, I paused and said, well, also, how much of it was you? He said, none of it was me. It was them. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but
I mean, he was like an offensive lineman running the ball. I know back in the old days, and I'm dating myself, and most people know I'm from the D.C. area, but the Washington Redskins used to have the offensive line, they call them the Hogs. And they gave Joe Theismann an honorary Hog shirt. He was the quarterback because of a play where a ball was tipped and he made a play and he was tough guy stuff, right? If there was a nickname for Carolina's offensive line, they need to give one of those shirts to British Brooks, because he ran with the same physicality that they blocked with. So his running perfectly was complemented their blocking tonight. Up there in the press box, some of the holes they made for him, just on counters and zone read stuff, man, it was big, but he got through the hole. Yeah. He got to the second level. He forced South Carolina's linebackers to have to make plays. And Carolina fans know what that's like, seeing their defense, seeing Cedric Gray have to make plays last year, and Howard Echols have to make plays to keep it from being a big play. And I don't know if he finished with 100 yards tonight.
Yeah, he did. He was just over 100 yards.
Just over 100.
I don't remember the exact total, but it was just over 100.
And I'm going to write a piece about him as well. He had a very emotional time after the game. I don't know if we got anything.
I didn't, but I did retweet a video, and I think we'll put it on Tar Heel Illustrated Twitter as well.
I got a piece because this guy, last time he played was on this field almost 2 years ago in a terrible bowl game, but he played pretty well that day. He wasn't sure he was going to come back and play again. And the first time he ran the ball, he ran it like, might be the last time I ever run. And the next time, this might be the last time I ever run. But it was perfectly in sync with the offensive line. Drake didn't have to move a whole lot. A couple times he did. He got very fortunate on a heave to John Copenhaver for a touchdown. And I think it kind of balanced out with the first pick that he threw. Should have thrown the ball better. But, Drake wasn't the focal point tonight for us taking notes about the game and coming up with story ideas and things to talk about for a change. And that's good, because if this team is going to contend for something significant, Drake can't be the main topic of conversation every week. He's got to be one and a positive, but he's got to have a lot of other stuff with him. And honestly, I could write 15 stories about this game tonight, and one of them would be about Drake May. That's very positive for North Carolina football. And I assure you, one of them would be the guys up front, the offensive line. They were very good tonight, especially that inside run stuff. That was smash-mouth, old-school counter-trap football. It was fun to watch.
Absolutely. And, AJ, last thing I want to talk about is just we always kind of end these on what this means. And it's not really necessarily what this means because it's game one, but just talking about kind of what this win essentially showed for Carolina today and kind of brushing some of those things off, some of that bad taste in the mouth that they had coming into this year based on how last season ended. In AJ, let me paint a picture for people right now. 80-20 South Carolina fans in the stadium today, probably?
Oh, a lot of people on Twitter who weren't here were trying to tell us it was 60-40.
And again, we weren't trying to bat. I mean, it's just
what it was.
It's just factual.
Although midway through the fourth quarter, it was about even.
Yeah, it did even out.
And by the end of the game, it was 80-20 North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. 80-20 South Carolina fans. You got Darius Rucker, South Carolina graduate, South Carolina fans singing the national anthem. This place is predominantly South Carolina fans. Carolina comes in here and wins. And not only do they win, but I know the fourth quarter got a little bit sketchy at times, and I think some Carolina fans were kind of like, this offense isn't doing much, but this defense is making stops.
Yeah, that was good.
Absolutely. It was great to see that.
Check, finish, all that stuff was good for them.
It's
better that they had to deal with that than everything being smooth and total domination. They're going to grow from all this.
It's something to learn from, and definitely take some encouragement going into the rest of the year. And I guess it gives the defense some confidence. It should. But AJ, when you look at what Carolina came into, you look at the skepticism from fans, the skepticism around the program right now, come into this environment, to come into this game on national television, College Game Day, and to play the way they did. I mean, we've harped on defense a lot, and I'm saying they played well offensively, but to play the way they did, particularly defensively as well, I think showed a lot of growth. And I don't know if it's one game, so I don't know if we can sit here and say, this is a new Carolina, this is a new team that is shown that they're different than what they were last year. But there were a lot of positive signs and a lot of positive things and performances to take away from tonight, and fans should be excited and going into the rest of the season. So, AJ, what are your thoughts on just kind of, for lack of a better word, what this game kind of means for where the program is at right now and how last season it did as well?
I'm surprised the field doesn't smell like mouthwash. It's like they all chugged mouthwash and rinsed and spit it all out. And right now, they don't have any connection to losing 4 in a row to end the season. And I was going to do a press conference, and I walked right by the Carolina players as they were coming in, going to the locker room. And I can't repeat what he said, because we might get fined. But Cedric Gray was making it very clear that who said we have a blank, 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 blank defense? He said it a couple of times. The emotion pouring out of him, and I asked Kamen Rucker about it, because he said confidence was the key. I said, we talked to you 3 weeks ago after practice, and you told us we were going to see. You said with absolute certainty everyone was going to see a different defense. I said, when did you realize that maybe you weren't saying something you thought would happen, but something you knew would happen? He said it was the way they prepared. It was the leadership, the way they prepared, the fact that they used what happened last year to fuel them, but it wasn't just that. It was the fact that there was so much to be gained. This club has the potential to do so many things, and they realized we won 9 games, we won our division, we almost won a pretty big bowl against a big-time program, and people are dumping on us. That must mean we're good. It also must mean we have a couple more layers that we have to scale. And I think what you saw today was a team, at least for a night, they scaled those things. And I think they cut the cord to all that stuff. We have been reporting positives because I've said that every time I talk to anybody over there, man, this team could be really good. And it wasn't one or two areas. They had depth in a lot of spots. We said that if they don't have Tez, they got enough guys to run routes, right? You saw that tonight. Didn't really miss Tez. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But they won, and they were able to move the ball. They didn't have DeAndre Boykins. No. We've known all week they weren't going to have him.
Yeah, out for the season, yeah.
But we couldn't put anything out until right before the game. I thought that was a devastating blow. Elijah Huzzy is an NFL player, and he was really good there. Now, they did have to move him to corner in the fourth quarter because they were picking on Holloway. And DJ Jones came in, a guy who was a running back this time a year ago, and he played well. So when things like that happen, it's because there's a lot of intangibles in a program. This is a culture. It is a program. And I thought you saw guys that had been preparing for each other for 6 months. I thought you saw the result of that tonight. So the naysayers and the Mac bashers were out. The Chiswick bashers were out. Oh, this is Carolina football. I mean, this club could still go 8-4, 7-5. South Carolina might not be that good. But for a night, this was a cross your T, dot your I football team. They weren't perfect, but they still won by 2 touchdowns over a club a lot of people think is the second best team in the SEC East. A team, by the way, that plays Georgia in a couple weeks, so we're learning something about them. And North Carolina doesn't win these games very often.
That's the thing, yeah.
They're now 2-8 in openers against non-conference Power 5 teams this century. Both are South Carolina, by the way. Yeah. But this was a more emphatic win than a couple years ago. Yeah. It's a much better football team. This is a club that has the potential to do a lot of damage and really make something special this season. And they did it on night. Drake threw 2 interceptions. So, and he wasn't awesome. For a while, I thought he was. I loved the way that he managed the offense. I loved the play calling by Chip Lindsey. You could see this was not Longo's offense. Not a lot of RPOs. They ran some counters, throwing screens to the backs, the way they used Petaway, the way they used the tight ends. But you got to be very pleased. There's very little to pick at. I know some people will, and we'll see next weekend when they play App State. Max said they got to stack it now. They got to stack it in practice. They'll practice Sunday, and they got to stack it next week when the Mountaineers come in. And we'll continue to learn about what this team's ultimate story is going to be.
Yeah, it's fascinating, but a really good start to the season. Also, as well, let me add this real quick. I know people asked about it in press conference. It's all over Twitter right now with Mac Brown, first coach in college football history to win over 100 games at 2 different programs. So that's pretty awesome accomplishment.
And none of us asked him about it because there was so much. Yeah. He did say something about the photo that's out there about him. It looks like he's grabbing Shane Beamer by the throat. He finished his presser, and Jeremy showed him the picture. And what's funny is the South Carolina writer had said something to Mac about grabbing or Shane and giving him a hug. That was probably that moment. It's just that when you're snapping a bunch of photos, someone decided to put that out because they wanted to have a good photo without. That's not photojournalism, because that photo didn't articulate journalistically what that moment actually was. Yeah. So Mac made a statement about it. We got a video on YouTube, and we've tweeted it out. It's on our site as well, what Mac said. Yeah, go check that out. Go check out. I did a pregame all-access video as well, so make sure you go check that out as well. You can kind of see inside the tunnel on the field before the game. I know Carolina fans will like to see that because they won. I know the views aren't great when they lose because, who wants to watch your team warm up after a loss? I'll watch that at about 5 a.m. Yeah. When I'm done with all my writing. 5 a.m. Come on, AJ. That might be a little bit too early. You might at least 7 a.m. probably, right? I get home tomorrow. It is approximately, AJ, about 1 a.m. right now, so we are wrapping this one up right now. Yeah, time. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun out here, AJ. Yeah, 31-17 win. I got long-winded again. No, it's all good. A lot of things to talk about. 31-17 win for the Tar Heels. Season-opening victory over South Carolina. Make sure you keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com for all your coverage from tonight's game. And go ahead and like the video below. I mean, Carolina, great performance, I thought, especially on defense. And I think that's something Carolina fans should be excited and optimistic about going in to next weekend against App State in Chapel Hill, and we'll obviously be there for that. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another edition of 3 Things. We appreciate y'all watching as always. See you on the next one. Thanks.